More than 30,000 athletes are participating in the 127th annual Boston Marathon today.
And today also marks 10 years after the deadly 2013 bombing at that marathon. The fastest and most decorated field to ever assemble took off from the starting line this morning. Participants include world record holders, Olympic and Paralympic medalists, and previous marathon winners.
But the memory of that day of the attacks is still burned into the minds of the people of Boston and in Massachusetts and around the world, in fact. It was April 15th, 2013. 2 bombs went off near the finish line of the marathon, killing 3 people and injuring more than 260 people. Boston's former police commissioner says that technology has become important in pursuing assailants since that attack.
I spoke to 2 of my FBI partners yesterday about the importance of things like not only video collection and things like facial recognition, which have improved greatly over the last 10 years, but cell phone exploitation, which the FBI does very, very well. So we learned lessons about effectively pursuing terrorists and other people that would do terrible things like this.
Joining us now is Manya Chylinski, a survivor of the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing. She is now a motivational speaker, and this day is unlike any other for you, Manya. It's been a decade. I'd love to know how you remember the marathon 10 years ago and how you think, more importantly, the rest of us should think about it.
Well, thank you for having me on. It is in some ways so difficult to believe it's actually been 10 years. There are moments when it feels like it was just a few weeks ago. And then there are the days when I almost forget that it actually happened. And I've spent a lot of time over the last 10 years working on overcoming my post-traumatic stress disorder and learning how to take care of myself and building up those particular strengths. And, when people think about it today, 10 years on, I want them to remember that it's not just the physical impacts. It's not just the bereaved families, that there are people like me who walked away with mental and emotional health struggles. And we continue to want to be heard, to want to have our story heard as well.
That's something so important that I always try to remember. We in the news cover devastating events, events that, mark history. And at the same time, we walk away from, as you said, people who've been impacted by them. And as we do this, we like to check in on people and see how they're doing. You've become a motivational speaker. I assume that you find a great deal of importance in sharing your story. Can you just talk to us how it's impacted your life and the message that you share 10 years later?
It's funny to me that I have this new career that I'm working on, sharing this story with individuals and groups about the importance of recognizing the mental health wounds after tragedy. And it started for me because I got angry. I was angry that we weren't being heard in the immediate aftermath, that the mental health side wasn't the story with the city and with the media. And I wanted to get the story out. And somebody asked me to share my story at a conference, and I did. And I found so much value for myself in sharing the story and knowing that people were hearing and realizing that it was going to make a difference in other people's lives as well.
So you did a TED. We just showed a clip there of you giving a TEDx talk. I mean, for people who haven't seen the talk, could you summarize what you have learned and what the message is that you want to convey in all of your speeches, but also today?
So, in the TED Talk, I talked about the fact that there are mental and emotional wounds after tragedy, and that we don't do a good job of talking about it. And in fact, when you introduced me, you said there were 200 and something people wounded, but those are only the people with physical wounds.
It's a great point.
We don't say,
I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to underline that and say it's a great point. And then as we went into the interview with you, I was like, I wanted to say you were one of the injured. And then I was thinking to myself, well, is she counted among those numbers or not? And as you point out rightly, no. And I guess your advocacy is about broadening the definition of injured. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. There are studies that show that for every one person physically injured in an event like this, there can be from 4 to 50 who have mental health impacts. So when we're talking about the numbers, we're not capturing the full impact. Now, I want to be clear, in the moment that something happens, it's impossible to know who is going to have long-term mental and emotional health issues. You can see a physical injury, you can't see the mental health injuries. So I think that's part of the problem. It's hard to measure what you can't see.
And just quickly, before we let you go, do you feel that you've been receiving the support you need?
Yes, in many ways, yes. And I want to shout out to the Massachusetts Office for Victim Assistance. They were the organization that I think did the most to help those of us with mental and emotional wounds. Unfortunately, it's been a constant source of disappointment for me that the city hasn't really stepped up to be supportive. But I have medical insurance, and I have been able to get support for myself, and my family and friends have been amazing throughout this all.
Not always the case for all tragedies. Thank you so much.
Manya Chylinski, thank you very much.
Thank you.